By default, if you hit T in Blender, it brings up your object tools, your tool shelf basically of different relative tools to the different things you've got going on in here. And then if you hit N, it brings up this properties shelf. But I got annoyed one day at trying to always remember whether I needed N or T. I probably wouldn't get so annoyed these days because I've used Blender for so long, but I still think it's pretty nice too. I have it to where if you just hit T, both properties and tools will pop up at the same time. And to me, that's fantastic because I would always hesitate 2 or 3 seconds looking at the keyboard trying to remember, do I need to hit N or do I need to hit T? So now you just hit T. This will bring up all your windows or your property tool shelf. Next, you'll see down here what we've got going on here. This is the timeline. Okay, so to move the green time indicator, you have to actually click and drag with the right mouse button instead of the left. Typically in your timeline, you will have some control over your keyframes, but in Blender, your timeline is pretty useless for the most part. Now, it's great for watching your overall animation of your scene, and it's also great for setting your starting and end frames and pressing play to watch the animation and recording and all that kind of stuff. If you'll see, you can scroll any menu window. If you put the mouse over the little bar, you can scroll back and forth. Like if I put my mouse down here over the UV image editor window and I scroll my mouse back and forth, you can scroll through your little menu bar down there if you don't have much screen real estate. For the most part, you can't change keyframes or anything in the Blender timeline. So I have the timeline taking up a very small amount of space, so I can basically just see the keyframes that I do having go on, because you can see where a keyframe is indicated, you just can't move it or do anything about it. To do that, you have to use the dope sheet, but I'll get into that in a second. So I keep the timeline right here, and then directly under that is the dope sheet. And that is indicated by this right here. This is the editor type of the dope sheet. Say I want to animate this. I will select these 5 pyramid teepee things, and I will hit I, which brings up the insert keyframe menu, and I'll select Loc Rot Scale, which is pretty much your go-to for creating a keyframe, because it creates a keyframe for the location, rotation, and scale. So I'll click that, and you'll see these 3 dots pop up here under the dope sheet window. And I'm going to minimize this these bars here. What this cone .003 is, that's the name of this object, which if up in our properties window here, you can see it's cone 03. Your object in Blender is typically indicated by this, either the little cube or the little triangle with dots. Like where those are is where information about your object specifically. So I'll go ahead and rename this, like, I don't know, 5 pyramids, whatever. 5 pyramids object. Hit enter, and you'll see that the name of this object changes down here. If I click this arrow down in the dope sheet and continue to click these arrows down, what these different dots are specific keyframes for specific points of stuff going on in the animation, but we're not going to get into that. I'll collapse this. The basic point here is to show you that it makes a lot more sense to have a very slim area to see your timeline, but then to also always have your dope sheet open so you can actually, animate and move things around. So if I move the timeline along to it's currently at 0 seconds, I'll move it to 2 seconds. Then I select my what is now called 5 pyramids object and hit R to rotate it. I'll press Control to constrain it so we can constrain it exactly, I don't know, 90 degrees or whatever. And I'll press I to insert another keyframe, low growth scale, and you'll see another dot appears. Now you see in this timeline, you get to you get to see the indication of a keyframes of the object selected, but you don't get to do anything about it. So if you want to be able to adjust your keyframes, you need to either have the graph editor open or the dope sheet, and the simplest one is the dope sheet for now. So if I hit play, we can watch the animation of the 5 pyramids rotating. But say I want to make that stretch out much longer, I'll select this keyframe down in the dope sheet and drag him on over to, let's say, 6 seconds. Click again to confirm, press play, and you'll see that's now a much slower animation. So that is why we keep open that is why in the Blender Sensei format I have a small sliver to control the timeline and my dope sheet here.